自己把 B 包点清理干净。其次手里面有烟，哎，但是球球的一波反超是把芒给秒掉了。大脚步抛出了神经曲膝，就在今年，棒子就在今年被发现了。但这个神经曲膝它不是动态的，它是一个固定的，所以第一时间的球球不敢去跟对方对枪。
但是全面封锁被打掉了，这个回防怎么办？
手里面有上方底线。 有人在拆飘点，没人拼点，有大脚步来了，
已经拆一半了，进来，
球球全是侧身，只要有人赶过这个黑障，哇，这 Y 巨城拿着奥迪手，这来跟球球跑打，但球球反身直秒 Y 巨城，一个点位和近距离打架，只不过有人在烟里面在混。
是的，康康已经来到了2楼的位置，再架住了这把数位。
后点位先把 Y 巨城秒掉了，但有再起的一个情况之下，只要把包点占领下来，可以有机会去拉队友。但现在就看他们在整体的一个回防路线上的选择。再
绕
来了 ，Life 可能要装载自己的王焰火，踩雷不见，
直接来，
装载王焰火猛炸一波的，
但是被接住了。
康康反身先把 Life 秒掉了，形成了场面上的一波3打5。
绕后的位置已经到了，高低差这个位置能打几个背身，正面也顶住了，康康一波4杀，但是换子弹非常的可惜，浩东补上了这个伤害，帮助 EDG 拿到了第2分。
枪给到字母哥的身上，过点位有这样的机会，但
人
好
多，是，
哇，
人家会稍微的吐一下，然后再等到队友的一个回防，然后再去打一波激活。
哦，快击加上顽皮搭档的安置暴龙器，近点安包应该不成问题，但是过点，哇，这瞬间的定位 ，Smoky 完成了一波3杀，剩下2名队员枪械劣势 ，B2楼的短炮需要去尝试一波绕后。
是，这全速前进了 ，Life 跟 Monk 有可能会想打一波。
对，再交一颗海盾，现在感觉 Life 抓到一个破口的机会，但时间已经非常的紧迫了。
是
哇，这第2发穿射有点夸张吧？
哎 ，Smoky 从近点一直到最后防守。
So today we're going into the second half of the teams, and we're going to start with our first Chinese team because today we're going to talk about how Edward Gaming can win Masters Tokyo, and this one's going to be an interesting one. So first, let's talk about the players and the coach. We got Haodong, Nobody, QQ, Smoggy, and of course Kang at the end there. And the thing is about EDG is they absolutely destroy their region, the Chinese region. They are the absolute kings of, as you can kind of see by just some of these numbers, you know, just really, really insanely good numbers across the board for all of their team, pretty much. They are very much the kind of dominant force in the Chinese scene, and their stats kind of reflect that. Let's talk about the playstyle of EDG, and to just give you like a little flavor, I'm sure some of you aren't super familiar with Chinese Valorant. Let's just take a look at this round from Ascent here in their most recent game, a grand final of the most recent competition they played in, and I'm just gonna let it play out with the Chinese commentary, and you can all just sit back and enjoy.
去打这个全面封锁的，
对，包括像正义啊或者战神，其实鬼魅的穿射系数都比较高。
对，但比较可惜的是，鬼魅是一个中的一个穿透，它是没有办法直接穿这堵墙的，墙比较厚。无人机直接过来，先探一下中路的一个信息。 找到对手2个人的站位，狂烈之路直接架设 ，Nobody 射到了，好像第2箭直接配合中路 Smoky 拉出来，是完成了一波击杀，先收一个打闪被背住了吗？没有背到，康康过来想要利用判官在空中完成击杀，但是直接被接了。正面 Smoky 还是完成击杀，王浩哲利用明军架 A 小配合到有3面铁是完成一波双杀。
现在打混战啊，两边位置平排1打2的残局。
哦，1打2，现在。 王浩哲这个位置，他被巡检给照到了，但是是一把数位，先收一个，1打1还不好说，但是
只有1枪的血。
Rain 的血量更多，他的血量非常残。现在对于 Rain 而言，他是可以直接来到 A 点利用离魂去捡这个爆能器，
没问题。但 Nobody 已经提前一步往 A 点在赶了，现在装爆能器可能会被抓 timing。
哦，这一波安的一瞬间抓到了。 哎，那也没有办法，因为 Nobody 是做了一波提前的预判。
So yeah, that was just kind of a little taste of some of the chaos that can go on in some of these games. But to talk about EDG a bit more in depth, it's not always that chaotic, but they do, and I did notice this watching, you know, obviously I haven't watched as many games as I have for a lot of these other teams, but I have, you know, watched a couple games now. One thing I've noticed about them in general is that on their defensive sides, they don't mind going for some pretty weird setups, right? Some pretty, like, I don't know if you call this like an aggressive setup, right? It's a quirky setup, let's say the least, where we've just got our Omen on A. They don't have any ults this round either, by the way, that you would think like, oh yeah, they're gonna just play retake with a Killjoy lockdown, something, you know, they don't have Killjoy lockdown, they don't have KO ult, anything like that. So, you know, it's not like they're even playing for that necessarily. They got a triple stack here on this B site, and when we watch this later, Archaeo is waiting to throw a flash down here for both of these guys to swing, I think. Yeah, a kind of weird setup, and you'll see how this round plays out, where they actually do stop them coming in to this B site here, but you'll see that, yeah, a bit of a weird setup, and they go for these, I think, more often than most teams, right? It's not every round. They will play some rounds pretty normally. But, you know, more than, you know, probably most other teams that are going to Masters Tokyo, they will go for these, you know, somewhat weird setups. I mean, our Killjoy is actually far enough away that you can see this alarm bot is down, because our Killjoy is all the way here, and this is, I guess, slightly out of range. Which again is a bit weird, but Kankang manages to trade essentially the alarm bot just there, and you see this dog goes up and he just swings out. I mean, Kankang is an absolute, I mean, he's a madman. You know, who thinks that? But then whilst that's going on, their Omen actually dies on the other part of the site, and then we've got this Jet kind of lurking here on B for the other team. And he's just running into, I mean, he must have thought, like, what the hell? Why is there two people still just sitting there? Because it was such a kind of weird setup. But either way, they end up in this 4v3, and you'll see from this point on, you know, it kind of plays out somewhat normally, where, you know, they will do their, you know, they will do the right things, like this drone in here, right, checking for this, right, pretty nice drone there just to clear that out, and then Kankan is just out swinging on his own in heaven, and he's getting away with it, because of course he is, and that's probably one of the things that, you know, they won't get away with as much, as Kankan won't be able to win as many duels as he does in the local scene, but they still managed to make it work. But now let's come to their attack side, where again there is moments of chaos and like, what? And there's moments of like, wow, I guess nice shot, or there are some normal rounds as well. So let's start off with a chaotic round though, which is this round here, round 3. First thing is, it's round 3, it's their bonus round, they're on the attack side, and of course Kankang has bought an attacking op. So that's the first thing to note that they're willing to do. Second thing is, they're playing Cypher, we'll talk about that a bit later, but the third thing is that this one-way comes up, and Kankang's almost immediate reaction is, I guess I can just jump past that. And this is the kind of decision-making he will make very, very often. And I mean, he has an op, so now he's in, you know, he's past this one way. So he just walks up and does manage to find the first kill. And that you will see happen a lot in their games, where Kankang with an op on attack side will just walk up and find a kill for them. That happens a lot. But because they're playing Cypher, you know, they don't have this normal Killjoy turret that's kind of here, you know, watching towards mid, and they put the camera here, so they don't have anything really watching towards mid. So this Jet manages to sneak up here all the way up in towards B, and now they're going to go for this drone back towards A, which is a perfectly normal thing to do. Unfortunately, this Jet finds a nice idea and manages to get that kill, and then gets the kind of information that, you know, probably wasn't too many people running across towards A either. So they rotate towards C, and now you'll see EDG get smacked by a stun. They get the nano swarm as well, and they, you know, get red a bit, and then they're gonna be in a pretty bad spot with that aftershock as well. Of course, Kankang will swing and manage to get another kill for them, as often will be the case. So we end up in a 3v3. They sprint back towards A, but again, this is being read by their opponents. And you'll see again, maybe a small little mistake that they make is this breach is going to go alone here, down short with the spike, and the other two go long. And so when this other breach is already there, you get that problem. So you can see that this round, and there's a nice shot by QQ as well. This round, I think, is a good example of like, yeah, they have, you know, very good mechanics, and, you know, sometimes, you know, that will bail them out, particularly in rounds against these other teams. Maybe not as much a Masters Tokyo, but they can still make, you know, little small mistakes that can be exploited, as we saw in this round. But not every round is absolute complete chaos, like this one here against Attacking Soul, another team we'll talk about later on. Here where you see, you know, this is a pretty nice round, all things considered, right? They start off with this Harbor Cascade, they send the dog in. They will sometimes pair this with the Fnatic Snakebite that lands just here as well. So, you know, they have, you know, ideas that they're copying from, you know, EMEA teams and stuff like that as well. So that was a good sign to me that, you know, they have got those ideas kind of in store as well. And, you know, the Seekers come out and they get pushed back a bit. So they take early long control. The Seekers come out, they get pushed back a bit. The Flash comes out from the sky. Sky as well. They just chill, and they just decide, okay, to chill, right? They're in control here. You know, they're just holding for any aggression. They destroyed the Sky Dog. So at this point, they've already got out an ult. They've destroyed quite a bit of the Sky utility at this point. But now they decide to go back and start the pressure towards short. And yes, Kang does have a Gecko op. Did I not mention that earlier? Because yes, again, he has an op. And again, they're just going to do a nice little thing here where they drop the wall for him. And then he's going to op. And of course, he's going to find this kill just there. So yeah, be aware for the Kang Gecko op on bind. That will happen on attack side. Which, yeah, is a bit bizarre. But then, hey, look, that kill down towards short drags out these rotates. Now we're walking back up towards long. We find this kill as well. And now we're ready to go in onto the site, right? And so you see, this was quite a nice round, all things considered. Yes, the Gecko op is a bit weird, but now let's see if they can close it out.
最后还是要围绕着 B 点来。
直接选择出来要硬守宝点了，正面的对枪 ，Y 巨城没顶住，这个背身 Monk 打到了，这没打二，再来 Monk，
但是现在面临到的是康康的民居之家，
是
Monk 的操作性太少了。
这个过点 Life 怎么过呢？手里是全技能，要守的点位太多了。
这么的一波反战 Life 想要过来的一瞬间，同样的枪管露出来的情况下 ，Nobody 完完全全可以蹲下他，打一波体验枪。
Now, I alluded to this earlier, but EDG do dominate in China. You can see that by kind of their overall win rates there as well and their map score. Their pistol rounds actually aren't quite as good. In terms of some of their map pool, Haven is a map that they've been dominating on recently. Split has been a pretty good map as well. In terms of their worst maps, it's kind of an interesting one for EDG because, again, it can be a little difficult to tell, to be honest, because they are so dominant. You know, they have won most of their maps. Icebox is actually a really weak map for them, but that's now gone from the pool. So Ascent and Fracture are the maps that I guess, you know, they have dropped maps against the Chinese teams, which to me would say, if you can drop it against Chinese teams, then you could probably drop it against, you know, the teams of Masters Tokyo as well. And in terms of their picks and bans, it's much more all over the place than perhaps, you know, a lot of the other teams we've seen. Maybe because, you know, this is kind of over a kind of a bigger time scale, I guess, and kind of more games. But more recently, they've been banning Lotus and picking Bind. That has kind of been their, you know, more recent kind of trend, is to ban Lotus and pick Bind. You know, Haven is still a pretty good choice for them as well. In terms of the comps that they run, you can see that on some maps, you know, Ascent, we're playing the bog standard comp. On Pearl, we're playing the loud comp, like completely normal stuff. On Haven, okay, we're playing a Cypher, but everything else is completely normal. But on other maps, they can definitely go their own way, as we see on Bind. They're playing Gecko, and I guess Harbor as well, you might consider, you know, slightly less pick rate than Brim on there. And on Lotus, they play double Duelist Breach. Very, you know, no Viper, very, very out there. I don't think you're seeing any other teams do that. Like Split as well, they're playing a non-Viper, no Cypher comp, which is kind of a bit, you know, a bit weird. You don't see too much of that. No Sentinel, well, no true Sentinel either. They are playing Sage, but playing Breach. It's kind of a weird comp, right? Not what we're normally used to seeing. So they're definitely not afraid to go in their own way, but on some maps they will play meta as well. But overall, this has led to a state where, in terms of the agent picks, it's actually not that far off for a lot of these agents. They do play more Breach than usual. They have experimented with Gecko, and they are still playing Gecko on Bind as well. You know, a lot more than perhaps other teams have. But other than that, you know, it's actually not that far off for most of these agents in terms of, you know, how often they get picked versus the average of everyone else. So overall, they're actually not too far away from, you know, what most of the teams are doing. And so, how are EDG going to win Masters Tokyo? Well, it's probably going to need, you know, a pretty big surprise to happen. You know, things are going to have to go their way. I think their best chance of actually winning Masters Tokyo would probably be, they're going to need probably some kind of like Zeta Division Reykjavik kind of improvement type stuff, you know, where Zeta Division from the start of Reykjavik to, you know, how they were playing at the end, like just were crazily much better in the space of a couple of weeks. That probably will have to happen for EDG. They'll also need Kang to absolutely fry, I think, because he's going to be aggressive pretty much no matter what, right? He's always just going to go in on his own, as we've seen in some of the clips. He's just going to go for it. which is going to happen no matter what. So really, his aim is just going to have to be completely on. He's for EDG to win Master Tokyo. Let's be honest, Kang needs to be the MVP. Like that is how they win it. Is that he's undeniably the best player at the tournament. And you know he's going to have to win fights like that consistently for them to win Masters Tokyo. That's really the only way I see it happening. I don't think EDG are that far off from some of the teams. I think mechanically they're actually, you know, they fit in at Masters Tokyo. They are that good mechanically. It's just, can they fix some of these kind of, you know, small mistakes we saw in some of those rounds? But if they can, I wouldn't be shocked if they beat T1. They are in a tough group, unfortunately, for them. But if they were in the other group, you might even favor them to get to the playoffs, to be honest. But yeah, EDG, can they do it? Probably not. But it would be crazy if they did.